Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Woodstock City Council, October 19th, 2023 edition. This hybrid meeting is being held in person here in council chambers and electronically in accordance with section 238, subsection 3.3 of the Municipal Act and section 16.6.24 of the City of Woodstock Procedure Bylaw. This meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube channel, and a recording will be posted on the city's website following the meeting. An agenda of the meeting can be found on the agendas, meetings, and minutes page of the city's website. And all councillors are in attendance tonight, so none are virtual, but we do have some city staff that may attend virtually. So let's get into it. There was no closed session this evening. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Disclosure of new business? None that I'm aware of. Matters arising from the minutes? And now the minutes. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Leatherborough that the minutes of the regular meeting of Woodstock City Council held on October 5th, 2023 be adopted.
Thank you. Any additions or omissions on that? Seeing none. All those in favor? Carried. Next up, additions to the agenda. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Wismer Van Meer that the following items be added to the agenda. Delegation item 8B, Jeffrey Xinos, ZN 8-23-06, application for zone change 360 and 366 Mill Street. Council report item 13A, provincial consideration of addiction treatment and harm reduction options. Councillor Kate Leatherborough.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Seeing none. All those in favor? None opposed. Carried. No presentations, but we do have a delegation. And at this point, I would ask Frank Gross from the County of Oxford. Please come forward. Welcome.
Are you seeing my presentation on your screens?
Yeah. IT. Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council and staff. I'm here this evening to present the findings and recommendations of speed and road safety reviews that were completed at the 3 study areas within Woodstock. These reviews were completed on Parkinson Road and Devonshire Ave in response to public concerns, and on Oxford Road 17 as a result of the expanded residential development in that area. In the interest of time, I will just skip to the key points here, and then happy to answer any questions from council. The study area on Parkinson Road extended from Beards Lane to Oxford Road 4, where the posted speed is currently 70 kilometers per hour. Speed data was collected at the 2 locations shown. And in addition, a traffic signal warrant analysis was conducted at Universal Road. The key findings from our study: the 85th percentile speeds at the east end close to Oxford Road 4 were found to be excessive, but were less excessive closer to Beards Lane, but still 15 to 20 kilometers per hour higher than the posted speed. The collision rate was lower than provincial average. The traffic signal analysis at Universal Road did not meet the warrants for signalization, and the posted speed was found to be 10 kilometers higher than guideline criteria. So as a result of the study findings, the recommendations include changing the posted speed from 70 to 60 kilometers per hour, along with installation of the electronic speed feedback signs, one near Beards Lane and one at Oxford Road 4. Moving to Devonshire Ave, the study area extended from Van Sittard Ave to Huron Street. Similar to Parkinson Road, speed data was collected at 2 locations, along with pedestrian crossing warrant studies that were completed at Victoria Street and Graham Street. The findings from the study: 85th percentile speeds were not considered excessive through that area. The 50-kilometer posted speed aligns with guideline criteria. Controlled pedestrian crossing was found to be warranted at Victoria Street, but not at Graham Street. And the area was also found to meet the county's warrant criteria for a community safety zone, which allows for police to impose increased fines for speeding and would be eligible for automated speed enforcement. We also found that nearly half of the collisions through that area over a 10-year period occurred with vehicles entering or exiting from private driveways through that area. So the recommended measures in this area include implementation of the community safety zone that's shown in the red box, as well as additional posted speed signs to support the community safety zone, and then installation of a controlled pedestrian crossing, or PXO, at Victoria Street. This section of Oxford Road 35 or Devonshire Ave is planned for reconstruction in 2025. So that is expected to include a shared center left turn lane with bike lanes, along with traffic signal upgrades at Van Sittard Ave and at Wellington Ave. And then the work will also include the PXO installation at Victoria Street. On to Oxford Road 17, the study area from the 14th line to Oxford Road 4 is currently 80 kilometers per hour. And we're recommending to reduce the speed through that section to 60 kilometers per hour. And that's in order to meet minimum sightline distances at the 3 new road connection that will be built by developers to access the new subdivisions in that area. And then to support that speed change, we're recommending 2 additional electronic speed feedback signs, in addition to the 2 that were previously installed in 2021. So we would look at relocating one of those existing signs just to evenly space those signs through that area of Oxford Road 17. Our next steps, we'll send notices by mail to residents and property owners in the study areas, as well as we'll post the information on Speak Up Oxford to seek public input. We'll be seeking county council authorization at the November 22nd county council meeting. And then if approved, we'll proceed with bylaw amendments associated with any speed changes and the community safety zone implementation. And then those measures would be planned for installation next spring in 2024. And then we would complete post monitoring in the future to measure the effectiveness of these measures. And then we continue to share any speed data that we collect with police to support their enforcement activities. And we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you for this report. Any questions of the delegation, Councillor Leatherborough?
Through your worship, thank you so much for your presentation. I'm always pleased to see a speed reduction and or traffic calming measures. Specifically about the public consultation for Speak Up Oxford, I looked on the website and it wasn't posted yet. Do you have a timeline of when that will be going up on the website?
Thank you. Through the mayor to the councillor, that's expected to be posted tomorrow.
Councillor Wheaton?
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. The electronic speed feedback signs, in my opinion, they work really, really well to visual feedback to people that they are exceeding the speed limit. But you can only put one into a community safety zone, is that correct? Or a school zone? Is that those are the only two locations that you can actually put one of those feedback signs? And a follow-up question, what is the approximate cost of one of those units?
Thank you, through the mayor to councillor. No, those signs, those aren't automated speed enforcement. They're just a speed indicator to drivers. So no regulatory requirement as far as how many or where you can install them. Oh, sorry, and your next question was, yeah, they're approximately $5,000 each.
Yeah, definitely think they're worth the money. Any other questions? Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
And through you, the chair, to Mr. Gross, just a quick question about the other half of Devonshire. Kind of maybe from Springbank down to County Road 4. Has that been assessed in the last few years? And if so, what are the findings been? I know there's a school zone there, so I've had people mention it multiple times, the excessive speeds that happen through that area, which I think folks come off of that county road and don't always consider the fact that they are in city boundaries where they are, and they rip through that school zone pretty quickly, which I know is a concern for families that are in that area. But also coming up to that intersection at Lansdowne and Devonshire, just the layout of that intersection is quite unfriendly. As somebody who lives in that community, that part of the city, it's not the greatest to get through. So I'm just curious if that's been assessed, and if not, when it might potentially be on that end of Devonshire.
Thank you through the mayor. I don't believe that area has been assessed recently. Certainly something we can include in our work plan to complete a similar study in that area. It is, as you mentioned, 40-kilometer school zone near the area of the school there. So again, that would be eligible for automated speed enforcement if a county-wide program is adopted.
Thank you. Any other questions? Counselor Schanberg.
Yeah, from the mayor through to, I guess, maybe our city clerk might be able to answer this question as well as Mr. Gross. If a crossing guard or crossing light was put in Victoria and Devonshire, would that mean that the city of Woodstock would no longer need a crossing guard during school hours at that location?
Thank you through the mayor to the councillor. The installation of a PXO isn't necessarily intended to replace a crossing guard. It's intended to supplement the crossing guard. So although I do understand that there's been challenges with staffing, obviously, for that. So without a crossing guard, it would provide a safe crossing for students. But with the crossing guard, again, it's just another measure that assists students in crossing. So.
Is there a standard time for the lighting on those cross guards, or is it something you can set specifically for each area being different, say Ferguson Drive and Parkinson being different than, say, Victoria and Devonshire? The reason I ask that is with the amount of foot traffic sometimes coming out of even Blossom Park with the adult community there. In theory, somebody can come along and a minute later somebody else presses it. The next thing you know, there's quite a lineup of cars because everyone's trying to cross the street, either going towards Brompton Park or coming back from that way.
Thank you through the mayor. Yeah, the timing for the flashing lights can be adjusted based on the distance to cross, although it is worth noting that the flashing light isn't the regulatory requirement for vehicles to stop. It's the presence of pedestrians. So even without the flashing lights, drivers are required to stop. So it isn't, the light is just an added feature to advise drivers that a pedestrian is waiting to cross or is crossing.
So the light of Victoria and Devonshire would be similar to the one that's at Brompton and Devonshire now? You press the button and the light comes on for a little bit and then obviously shuts off.
Thank you through the mayor. It would be similar to the style that was installed at Parkinson Road in Ferguson with the curb mount rapid flashing beacons.
Thank you. Counselor Lauder.
Thank you. Through the mayor to Mr. Gross. So in the community safety zones, are the fines more expensive there? And if so, what percentage do they go up?
Thank you through the mayor. In a community safety zone, fines can be increased up to double the amount. So it's up to the police officer. They can be increased above the normal rate, and up to double.
Anything else? No? No? Then the presentation was excellent. I don't have any questions. So thank you very much for this.
Great, thank you very much.
And next up, we have Jeff Sinos. For those watching at home, this is for application for a zone change ZN 8-23-06. Jeff, please, microphone's yours.
I stand before you today, speaking on behalf of myself and my neighbors to discuss an important matter that directly impacts the residents of my local community, including myself. The proposed development of 19 townhouses directly behind my house has raised some concerns, which I believe need to be addressed in order to preserve our right to privacy, quiet enjoyment of our outdoor space, and prevent intrusive lighting issues that may disrupt the tranquility of our neighborhood. One of the fundamental rights we cherish as homeowners is the right to privacy. The construction of 19 townhouses right behind my home threatens to infringe upon that fundamental right. As homeowners, we have invested in our properties and should not be subject to an invasion of our privacy. I kindly request that council ensures that measures are in place to safeguard our right to privacy that we currently experience. The tranquility of our outdoor space is essential for all of our well-being and quality of life. An increase in housing units directly behind my home could potentially lead to an unwanted surge in noise levels, disruption of peace and enjoyment, and decrease the appeal of our neighborhood. It is crucial that any development plans address noise control and the well-being of the existing residents to ensure that we continue to enjoy our properties without disturbance. Suggestions on site work. I know I'm not going to stop this from happening. I know there's a need for housing, so I'm kind of going off script here a little bit. I've been in, I worked for home builders over the years. I've been in different industries related to building. I know there's options to control the privacy concerns that I have. On Tuesday night when I was here, the delegation on proposing the development was speaking about raising the grade potentially 3 meters at the north side of the development. So that's going to raise the grade higher than our fences that we currently have in our backyard. There is solutions that may cost the developer a little bit more money, not raising the grade, but doing a stepped foundation or removing grade and putting the retaining wall at the south side of the property to bring the buildings down instead of bringing them up. An other alternative is to go to a unit reduction, but I know that there's mandates from the province and I understand that. So while I appreciate that council is taking into consideration the Mill Street side of the proposal, it appears that there may not be adequate consideration for the properties backing onto the proposal. It is imperative that the development aligns with the character of our neighborhood and takes into account the well-being of all residents. By reducing the number of units, we can maintain the charm and character of our community, ensuring that it continues to be a welcoming and harmonious place to live. In conclusion, the proposed development of 19 townhouses behind our houses poses significant challenges to our right to privacy, quiet enjoyment, and peaceful nights. I respectfully request that council takes these concerns into serious consideration when reviewing the development plans and implements measures that will protect the well-being and the quality of life of all existing residents, both those facing the project and those backing onto the project. Thank you for your time and attention on this pressing matter. If there's any questions or anything,
Any questions for the delegation, Mr. Sinos? Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Through the chair to, I think Mr. Gilbert will probably be the best. And I did have a conversation today, but to maybe assist Mr. Sinos through this as well. If it is approved tonight, I'm sorry, I can't see Mr. Gilbert past the I am speaking to you, sorry. if this was passed this evening, as Mr. Sinos mentioned, there are some concerns or some questions that they had for the developer and wondering if there's the ability to work together or to, have these discussions to see what could potentially take place in this development. What are the process, the procedures that those residents could or should take if it is passed tonight so that they could potentially have some input in this going further?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To Councilor's question, if the proposal was approved by council and there is no appeals received, it would proceed to site plan approval. Generally, site plan approval is not a public process. However, staff could make the plans available to residents to review and provide comments, but ultimately, through changes to the Planning Act, the site plan approval process is delegated to staff. So it's not a public process per se, but the materials are open to the public and we'd be able to share those with you.
Any other questions? Counselor Wheaton? Oh, sorry. Counselor Schadenberg first, thank you.
Yeah, from your mayor through to Mr. Sinos. I guess my best question is to ask how much you knew or recall throughout the process of the calendar year that we're going through right now, when it started off as a severance of properties facing Mill Street and then evolved into 19 townhouses from there, because of course you get public notifications of such changes to subdivisions and severances, whatnot in the neighborhood.
The only notification that any of us received in our neighborhood was for the meeting that was held Tuesday night, 2 nights ago. Other than that, there has been no communication to any of us in the neighborhood or input requested.
Counselor Wheaton?
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. We know that the best way to ensure that development doesn't take place on a property is to sanitize it and maintain or acquire ownership of it. In order to ensure your right to privacy and the community's tranquility, do you know if at any point any of you or your neighbors made an effort to acquire the property to ensure that development didn't occur there?
So my neighbors aren't in a position to purchase extra properties. Myself, I did want to purchase the property before the current owner did. There was a lady that lived there behind who passed away. But at that same time, in that same year that happened, I had purchased a building on Main Street in Woodstock and the condo in Nova Scotia Court, and I couldn't do a third. So yes, I wanted to. I never got the opportunity because of financial reasons.
Thank you. Anyone else or any questions? Okay,
Okay.
no resolution. Thank you.
Thanks.
No resolution is required as this refers to planning item 9E and it will be discussed and voted on then. Now I do have to back up council. My apologies. I did not get a motion for 8A for Mr. Gross's presentation. I'm looking for a motion on the floor. Councillor Tate, seconded by Councillor Wheaton.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council receive the presentation from Oxford County regarding speed management on Oxford Road 15, Oxford Road 35, and Oxford Road 17 as information.
Thank you for that. Any questions or concerns with that? Again, my apologies. I know he's gone, but seeing none, all those in favor? None opposed. That is carried. Thank you, everyone. So next up, we do have consideration of planning reports. B 2341-8, and I will ask that we'll listen to the planner first, and then I'll look for a motion. Mr. Gilbert? Thank you.
Thank you. This first application is a consent and minor variance application for property at the south side of Bernadette Place. The lands were previously owned by Woodstock Hydro and were an electrical station. They were transferred to the city, decommissioned, and the sites were cleaned of any contaminants and were offered for sale. The applicant's proposing to sever the property in half, construct 2 single attached dwellings, one on the lot to be severed, one on the lot to be retained. The lot minor variances that are being sought relate to lot frontage, lot area, for both the lot severed and lot to be retained. Staff's opinion that the proposal is consistent with the official plan policy for street-oriented infill projects, and staff recommends support of the applications subject to the recommended conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions of council? Councillor Shanberg.
Yeah, from the mayor through to Mr. Gilbert, I guess the best question would be just as a clarification or reminder, what's the minimum frontage a property can have to be a detached home in the city of Woodstock?
Off memory for the R1 zone, I think it's 10.5 meters.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, looking for a motion. Councillor Wheaton. Take a breath.
I am, there's gonna be a few, make some popcorn at home, folks. That Woodstock City Council advised the Land Division Committee that the city supports application file A 23-07-08 submitted by Oxford Builders, Inc. for lands described as Part Lot 42, Plan 212, Part 27, 41R 2511, City of Woodstock, and to be municipally known as 6 Bernadette Place as it relates to relief from Section 6.2, Table 6.2 R1 zone provisions to reduce the minimum required lot frontage of the lot to be retained from 12 meters to 10 meters. Relief from Section 6.2, Table 6.2 R1 zone provision to reduce the minimum required lot frontage of the lot to be severed from 12 meters to 10 meters. Relief from Section 2.2, Table 6.2 R1 zone provision to reduce the required lot area of the proposed retained lands from 370 square meters to 350 square meters, and relief from Section 6.2 Table 6.2 R1 zone provisions to reduce the required lot area for the proposed severed lands from 370 meters to 350 meters. The recommended relief meets the 4 tests of a minor variance as set out in Section 45(1) of the Planning Act as follows. The relief is a minor variance from the provision of the city's zoning bylaw. The relief is desired for the use of the land. The relief maintains the general intent and purpose of the city's zoning bylaw. The relief maintains the intent and purpose of the official plan. And further, that Woodstock City Council advised the Land Division Committee that the city supports the proposal to sever the subject lands subject to conditions 1 through 5.
Okay. And looking for a seconder on that motion. Councillor Wismer Van Meer. Any further discussions? Or questions, of course. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Carried. Next up, 9B ZN 8-23-10, application for zone change. Mr. Gilbert.
Staff recommending that this application be deferred. There's a number of issues to be sorted out, particularly the front yard depth of the proposed buildings, the proposed servicing, and there's a road widening that needs to be accounted for in the design. So staff are meeting with the applicants shortly, and we'll bring this back when those issues have been resolved.
Thank you. Any question, Councillor? Oh, no, any questions? All right, Councillor Leatherborough, would you like to make a motion?
Sorry. Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council defer the application for lands described as Part Lot 13, Concession 2, Blandford in the city of Woodstock to rezone the subject property from future development FD to special prestige industrial holding zone M1-SP-8H to facilitate the development of a warehousing facility with office space.
Thank you. Looking for a seconder on the motion, Councillor Lauder. Any final discussion or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? None opposed, carried. Next up, we're at 9C, OP 21-17-8. Mr. Gilbert?
These are applications for official plan amendment, draft plan subdivision, and zone change for property the northern part of the city. The application was a severance application previously came before this council, I believe, in August. to sever the existing single detached dwelling on the property. That was approved by Land Vision Committee. And the applicants come forward to complete the rest of the subdivision plan, the extension of Leslie Street, which will go to the east, which is in accordance with the North Woodstock secondary plan. And ultimately, the proposal will create 4 new residential lots for single detached dwellings. Planning staff have no concerns with the proposal as it implements the secondary plan and the the recommended conditions cover off any concerns from staff. So staff recommend approvals and support of the application.
Thank you. Any questions? Of Mr. Gilbert, before I look for a motion? Seeing none, looking for a motion on the floor. Councillor Lauder,
Thank you. I'll move that Woodstock City Council approve in principle the zone change application file number ZN 8-21-20 submitted by Andrea and Omed Tamshidi for lands legally described as part lot 5, concession 13, East Sora in the city of Woodstock to rezone the land's residential type 2 zone to facilitate the proposed draft plan of subdivision, and further that any comments received from the public were reviewed and considered before the decision was made in relation to this planning matter. And further that Woodstock City Council advised County Council that the city supports the application to amend the official plan file number OP 21-17-8 submitted by Andrea and Omed Tamshidi for lands legally described as part lot 5, concession 13, East Sora in the city of Woodstock to redesignate the subject lands from future urban growth and agriculture reserve to low density residential to facilitate a draft plan of subdivision consisting of lots for 4 single detached dwellings, and further that Woodstock City Council advised County Council that the city supports the application for draft plan of subdivision file number SB 21-12-8 submitted by Andrea and Omen Tamjidi. I'm sure I'm not saying that right. For lands legally described as part lots 5, concession 13, East Sora in the city of Woodstock, consisting of 4 lots for single detached dwellings and the extension of Leslie Street subject to the following 30 conditions.
well, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have you read them out. I'm kidding. Totally kidding. No.
You want to be here all night?
Yeah, no. No, if everybody's okay with that, then we'll move ahead with that. Looking for a seconder on the motion. Councillor Schattenberg, any final questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor? None opposed. Carried. Next up, we have 9D ZN 8-23-09 application for zone change. Mr. Gilbert.
This is a zone change application to permit an existing transport terminal and repair, truck repair operation to continue. That location is zoned MR1 on the provided maps, and as well as to introduce a number of highway commercial uses, as well as some light industrial uses for the northern portion of the property. The lands were annexed into the city from the township of Norwich in 2018, and the lands were redesignated through the Southeast Woodstock secondary plan in 2022, which designated them service commercial with a number of light industrial uses. In keeping with the policy, the special official plan policy to the west and to the northwest at Bonds Corners. Staff have no concerns with the request. We note that there should be a holding provision included in the zoning just to preserve the ability to account for a future road, east-west road, in accordance with the secondary plan if it's required, as well as we recommend that the existing zoning provisions respecting the open storage be carried forward to any new uses to ensure that the storage isn't seen from the street and remains behind any buildings and is enclosed as per the recommended OP official plan policies. Given this, staff support the application and recommend to be approved.
Thank you. Any questions of council? I do have one small one. We touched on it the other night. Actually, I think it was Councillor Schattenberg touched on it. There's a storm management pond there and there's a street, a possible future street. How would that work if we ever needed to put a street in there with the storm pond management? I think you can, well, you can see it that well, but
The secondary plan showed the conceptual location in that general area. But through the development of a review of a proposal on the north or south, it go through site plan approval. So that would determine the best location for a swim pond. So that pond may be relocated or the road location may be slightly shifted.
okay, thank you. Just curious on that. Then I'm looking for a motion on the floor. Councillor Schattenberg, seconded by Councillor Tate.
That Woodstock City Council approved the zone change application submitted by Oxford 714976 Inc., whereby the lands described as part lot 12, concession 1 East Oxford, known municipally as 714976 and 714986 Oxford Road 4, City of Woodstock, are to be rezoned to permit highway commercial uses and recognize an existing trucking terminal and transport truck repair facility on the subject lands. And further, that any comments received from the public were reviewed and considered before the decision was made in relation to this planning matter.
Thank you. Any final questions? No, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed, carried. Next up, 9E, ZN 8-23-06, application for zone change. Mr. Gilbert.
Thank you. This is a zone change application to rezone the property from R1 to R3 zone. The only special provision requested is to increase the permitted lot coverage from 35 to 38%. The proposed development would consist of 19 townhouse units comprised of 4 blocks. The proposal provides satisfies the required parking and actually provides more parking than what is required by the zoning bylaw. And the proposal does satisfy the R3 zone provisions with respect to rear yard depth, setbacks, and density. The 19 units represents, it's at the top limit of the density, maximum density of the low density residential designation. But it is within it is at the 30 units per hectare. However, as noted, it does comply with the minimum lot area, and the preliminary site plan would appear to still have enough amenity areas and areas to satisfy the zoning provisions for provision of landscape open space and other zoning provisions. Originally, this application was for 11 units for only the northern portion of the property. However, when an abutting landowner to the south did receive severance approval to create a new lot, the two developers did work together and ultimately came to an agreement to include the southern portion of these lands in this proposal. And then in August, the applicant subsequently amended the proposal to include those lands and to increase the number of units from 11 to 18. Staff are of the opinion that the proposal will be subject to site plan control, where the city will have an opportunity to ensure that lot grading, drainage, landscaping, lighting, and all other matters are addressed to the satisfaction of the city. There is a road widening on Mill Street that's been accounted for in the proposed plan, and staff recommend approval of the application.
Thank you. Questions, council? Councillor Leatherborough.
Through you, your worship, to Mr. Gilbert, and I was going to ask it earlier, and maybe it's just more for my understanding and benefit, but in the delegations, I'm reading the written version. I just wanted to understand if there was anything council could approve in terms of the grading situation where it is noted with an 11-meter tall building planned. We must avoid a situation where it becomes 11 meters on top of a 3-meter raised grade. So again, perhaps I'm a bit confused of the south to north side, but is that something within our scope of tweaking?
To Mr. Mayor, councilor's question. The zoning bylaw defines the height as the distance between the average grade at the front of the building and the peak of the roof. So I don't think we can interpret it any differently or go to the pre-graded height or anything like that. The city does have maximum standards for retaining walls and grading, which the applicant will have to work through the site plan process and demonstrate to the city that it's appropriate. But otherwise, no, I mean, the applicant hasn't asked for any relief of the maximum building height, and the 11-meter height is the same for R1 as it is for R3. So there could be a building that large built there today. So no, I don't believe that council has any ability to interpret that differently in this situation.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of council? Councillor Shanberg?
Yeah, from the mayor through to Mr. Gilbert, I guess my question's along the same lines as what Mrs. Leatherborough just asked you, is more of a clarification on measurements and sizes, because when we had talked earlier today on the phone, we talked about the setbacks being that the back door of the building at 7.5 meters off the back fence for a setback. And then you described to me, maybe you can describe it again, for what distance somebody could have a back deck there for, whether they've got a dog using the deck or a barbecue or whatever, or even just the lawn furniture. Give us an idea of the size required there.
Seems to me to Councilor Shanberg's question. The rear yard depth is the same for R1, R2, R3 zones at 7.5 meters. There is a permitted encroachment for an uncovered deck of 1.5 meters, so approximately 5 feet. So the deck would have to stop at that limit, at that 5 feet from the house. So it couldn't be any closer than 6 meters to the rear lot lines.
I guess just maybe as a comment, maybe a follow-up question might evolve out of this, Mayor, but if somebody had lived on a street behind, doesn't matter what street it is, anywhere in the city of Woodstock, that had 2 detached homes on a very large piece of property, both supplying fairly adequate large backyards, then all of a sudden they were to find out that there was going to be townhouses built behind them with 7.5 meters as the setback to their back patio doors. I mean, it's a back patio door. I would think that would fall under the qualification of following city council for the last 20, 30 years. Is it something that would not qualify as good planning? But you say that it does fit under provincial policy statement for coverage, lot coverage or land coverage?
See, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Shanberg, the proposal complies with everything in the R3 zone apart from the lot coverage. And again, that's from 35 to 38%. And in this case, the city will have an opportunity through site plan approval to review the coverage and make sure that all the the additional runoff and potential drainage concerns resulting from that increased coverage is addressed. With respect to the rear yard depths, that 7.5 meter rear yard depth is a minimum. Certainly in R1 lots, sometimes it's a lot more than that, but the 7.5 is what's in the R3 zone, and the applicant hasn't asked for any relief of that requirement.
Thank you, Councillor Blotter.
Thank you, the mayor, to Eric. So there could be children in these properties, living in these properties. Where is the area that they would have to play in? It just seems like they're all jammed in with houses and no area for a play area for them.
See, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Lutter, the landscape open space provision in the zoning bylaw just requires you to have landscape open space. It doesn't say where it is or that it has to be dedicated as children's amenity space. We don't get that prescriptive until you're into more of an apartment building. That's when there's specific requirements for amenity space. In this case, I believe the applicant indicated on Monday night that it'll likely be a condominium corporation. So I assume then that the play area would be part of the common element of the condominium, and they would designate a portion for that, whether it be the 7.5 meter rear yard for each unit, or whether they'd have a communal space.
Anyone else? Okay. Well, again, just more of a comment, really. I mean, I know we have site plan approval still to go through, so and I trust planning and staff are going to look at the area that's it's going in, and all efforts will be made to make it fit as best possible within the parameters given. And with that, I'll call the vote. I need a motion. Looking for a motion on the floor. Thank you. Counselor Wheaton. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. The Woodstock City Council approved the zone change application submitted by Kuldeep Rar, Jajit Randhawa, and Van Sitter Company, Inc., whereby the lands described as Part Lot 11 and Part Lot 12, Plan 86, known municipally as 360 and 366 Mill Street, City of Woodstock, are to be rezoned from residential zone 1, R1, to special residential zone 3, R3 special, to facilitate the development of a 19-unit townhouse development. And further, that any comments received from the public were reviewed and considered before the decision was made in relation to this planning matter.
Thank you. Looking for a seconder on the motion. Counselor Leatherborough. Final discussion. Counselor Lauder.
Thank you. I will not be supporting this application. I know we require more affordable housing, but where is the guarantee this is for affordable housing? We are jamming housing into a small area. What I see, limited parking, and no one uses their garage as parking. I have other reasons, but that's my reason. I will not support this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
More of a general comment. I've been back and forth very much on this one. Obviously, we have a need and we have housing that we need to put in. I would highly encourage those folks in the neighborhood, if this does pass, to be very much involved and have your contacts with planning and seek those documents, have your say, make sure you're submitting what you can. Because I think that's about the best we can do, unfortunately, but yeah, this one's a tricky one.
Thank you. Counselor Tate.
Through the chair, I will also not be supporting this application. I don't think it fits in with the neighborhood. I would be extremely upset if I had built and developed my house behind it, knowing that there was 2 large lots in front with housing, single home, and all of a sudden all this build has been rammed down all the municipalities from the province, and I don't think it fits in with the neighborhood. I'm very concerned with the number. I think it's going to be very little green space, and I can't support it.
Okay, thank you.
Just through to the planner too, just to Councillor's comments. I think that we're going to have to rely on the developer to work with the neighborhood, because I think once it's passed here, it's done with planning. Is that not correct?
We participate in the site plan process, but yeah.
If it does pass, I would hope the developer would take into consideration the neighborhood and have some communication, because it sounds to me like there's been no communication to the neighborhood, which is really unfortunate. When we have local developers and builders, there's always they're very concerned with the neighbors that are there and they work well with them. So I would hope if this does pass that the same thing would happen.
Thank you. Counselor Schanberg.
Yeah, I'll also not be supporting this plan myself. There's a townhouse complex in Woodstock currently under construction, and in our last term of office, I was the one who came up with a motion to vote for fewer townhouse units in that complex. And of course, it passed with the amount that the developer had requested originally, because it sort of fit the pie, so to speak. So once again, I'll be voting against this one because there's simply too many units in the complex. And that goes not only to green space, but it goes to parking spaces and other amenities, even a place to put the snow on a snowy day.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? I'll certainly just make more of a comment really than a question. These are the tough ones. There's no question here at council with the taking the affordable out. I know it was mentioned already, but we need more housing of all sorts. You know, anytime you have 2 houses and you can convert that to 19 residences, I mean, that is a big change for the neighborhood, and I certainly recognize that. But when we really boil down to it, the need is huge. It's not small, it is huge. There is a huge need for all housing. And my fear, of course, is this can be turned around and brought back to the tribunal, and planning has already stated that it checks every single box, not just most, but every single one. So at that point, how much does the city waste in trying to hire another planner and go and represent at a tribunal with knowing the outcome of something like this? And I guess simply for that reason, and the need in general, I would have to support this motion myself. And with that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed to the motion? Motion fails. 4-3. Sorry. Okay, thank you. We do have to put a new motion on the floor, of course. Councillor Tate.
I'll make the motion that Woodstock City Council does not approve the zone change application because it does not fit in with the neighborhood. And is that sufficient? In not keeping with the character of the neighborhood.
Okay. Do we have a seconder on that motion? Councillor Lauder? Any discussion? No? Councillor Lauder?
Is it possible for the planner and the developer to get together and bring back maybe less units there or something else that the rest of us could feel more comfortable with? Question.
And I would ask Mr. Gilbert to answer that.
I don't want to speak to the developer, but I imagine they'll take a deferral over a refusal, so we can go back to them with the conversation this evening and see if they're willing to revise the proposal.
Okay, of course, what the planner is discussing there is something different than what we have right now on the floor, though. So I just want to be clear. We've got a motion to defeat and not accept versus a deferral. So this is what we're talking about right now. Okay, Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
I was just going to actually ask that question. What is the step if a deferral is an option? I think that just speaking to some community members in that area, I think the lack of communication was what was a big concern. And when the developer, I'm not sure if the developer or somebody representing the developer is here this evening. I don't see the individual that was with us on Monday, but even in those conversations, I don't feel like there was a lot of open communication or conversation of what could potentially happen. So I mean, if there's the option of the deferral to be able to have that conversation, I think it's worthwhile seeing what could potentially be there and allowing those community members to have that as well.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wheaton.
I can withdraw the motion if the seconder wants to, and I can do a motion to defer.
Yes, yes, I agree.
Any objections to that? So now we are discussing about a deferral of this application. Okay, discussion on the deferral of this application. Oh, yes, same mover, same seconder. Counselor Wheaton?
I'm curious, Mr. Mayor, does council have a desire to add to that a recommendation of number of units, or you want to see the proposal and then address it at that time?
Yeah, just through the chair, I don't think that would be appropriate for us to decide. I'd like to see the conversations and see what comes back, but I think there was a huge lack of communication and understanding of the neighborhood, so obviously the planner's gonna convey our conversation.
Well, I'm certainly in favor of this. I think something's going to be done with that site, so a deferral would actually give them opportunity, and hopefully, as mentioned, some discussions can happen and more respect can be given to the neighborhood, for sure. Okay, and yeah, okay. And with that, if there's nothing else, I'll call a vote on the deferral. To be clear, all those in favor? Okay, that is unanimous. Thank you. It is deferred for the moment. And please, Mr. Gilbert, speak to the developers on our behalf. Next up, 9F, that is OP 23-09-8 and ZN 8-23-15, application for official plan amendment and zone change. Mr. Gilbert.
Thank you. These were two applications initiated by the city to update the official plan policies and zoning bylaw to reflect the provincial direction that's come through numerous legislative changes since the last ARU policies were adopted in 2022. Staff have reviewed the official plan amendment, and really it's only a minor tweaking that's required to increase the number of units from 2 to 3 per residential property that contains a single attached dwelling, semi-detached dwelling, and townhouse dwelling. Staff think that the current review criteria remains relevant and is fairly robust. With respect to the zoning changes, a couple of things we will need to change or recommend to be changed. One is to increase the number of ARUs to 2 per lot, either 2 in the principal dwelling or 1 in the principal dwelling and 1 in a detached accessory building. Increasing the maximum ARU floor area to 50% of the gross floor area of the principal dwelling to a max of 100 square meters, and indicating that the ARU may occupy the whole of a basement of an existing dwelling, as well as reducing the minimum lot area for an ARU in an accessory building from 1,000 square meters to 540 square meters, which is the minimum lot size for a corner lot in the R1 zone. Staff have reviewed this with the city building department, and we're confident that a typical R1 corner lot can accommodate an accessory building and all the required setbacks and parking generally, as well as changing the zoning tables to permit a ARU in the R1, R2, R3, C3, or Heritage District zones, where those properties contain, again, a single attached dwelling, semi-detached dwelling, or townhouse dwelling. Respecting the feedback that we received Monday night, staff went back with city engineering staff to determine the percentage of the lot frontage that can be occupied by a parking space or by a driveway or parking area. And I think we've settled that 65% as something that city staff are generally comfortable with. There are a number of increased difficulties with bumping it from 50 to 65, primarily in new subdivisions. One is you're going to actually reduce the number of on-street parking because your driveways will be wider. As well, there's less room to fit in fire hydrants, streetlights, hydro poles, transformers, communication boxes, as well as street trees. So it'll be a little bit more difficult in new subdivisions, but it can probably be accommodated in existing subdivisions. staff recommend that that change only be applied to ARUs. Because if we, think if we went beyond that, it would be beyond the purview of this amendment and would require a larger public consultation and a larger analysis and discussion. We may do that anyways, to bump it up, but it needs to be a more comprehensive look. But for this purpose of this amendment, staff are okay with doing it just for ARUs. But we do recommend that at this time that the current height and size for accessory structures remain at the single story, the 4-meter height, and the 10% of the lot area to a max of 800 square feet. If we're going to bump this for ARUs, we really have to bump it for all accessory structures in the city. And we'll have to look at our setbacks as well, because now when you have a 2-story accessory building in the backyard, it likely, could be and should be farther from the side lot lines than what a 1-story building can be. With this, staff recommend support of the official plan amendment and approval of the proposed zone change. With that, I'd be happy to try to respond to any questions.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Leatherborough? Not yet? Okay. Any questions before I call for the motion? Sorry. All right, let's get the motion on the floor and then we can discuss if we like. Councillor Leatherborough?
Sorry, everyone. Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council support the official plan amendment application submitted by the city of Woodstock to amend the policies of the low density residential district and entrepreneurial district to broaden the permissions for the ARUs within the city of Woodstock in accordance with the provincial direction. And further that Woodstock City Council approve the zone change application submitted by the city of Woodstock to amend the existing provisions and broaden the permissions of additional residential units throughout the city. And I do have a friendly amendment depending on if I have a seconder and council's appetite for discussion.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I would, if that's okay with everyone, why don't you read that right now and then we can remove it if needed. That's okay? Because we don't have a seconder yet.
And further, whereas an amendment to table 7 of zoning bylaw section 5.4.4.1 to permit a driveway with maximum of 65% of a front yard or exterior side yard for a property that includes an ARU is deemed to be a minor amendment and approved as part of this application.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a seconder on that motion, including the friendly amendment? Councillor Wheaton? Okay, and discussion, Councillor Leatherborough?
So this was just, I apologize if I misstepped on the procedure there. I want to just bring this towards council because of our discussions on Monday. It did sound like, in my eyes, that this is the missing middle, ARUs, and still accommodating parking. And so I wanted to say that right now we're at 50%. We could potentially increase it to 65%. And it did really stand out to me that Tilsonburg is sitting at 84% for townhouses in Tilsonburg when it comes to ARUs. So this is a window of opportunity to slightly change that. And I do believe that the missing middle, as I said, is something that we'll have to look at. We were just looking at condominiums and townhouses and things like that, and this could be an opportunity for us to kind of further that needle should we wish to.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Just to notify, there's been a slight tweak recommended by planning on this. I want to make sure that was caught. We're not sure if it was or not. I didn't. I think she said that, did she not? Yeah, she read that. Yes, maximum driveway piece was read by you in the 65%? Okay, okay. Would you like her to reread it? So you have that? Okay. Yeah, no, I'm sure I heard that. That was part of the discussion and everybody's aware of that. Yes, yes, okay. My apologies, where were we? Did we have a seconder? We did have a seconder, Councillor Wheaton. And then we just started the discussion. So anything further, Councillor Leatherborough?
Just to summarize, because of that hiccup, I just wanted to say from Monday's planning meeting, we were chatting about ARUs, we were chatting about parking. We did have a specific voice talking about how restricting it is when they are trying to fit in with the neighborhood as well as provide an additional residential unit. And I refer to it as the missing middle. I think for seniors, I think for children that are coming home from post-secondary or whatever the case is, this could be an opportunity to just advance the needle a little bit. And I referenced that we're sitting at 50%. We could advance it to 65%. And then I said, in Tilsonburg, my understanding is that townhouses, ARUs, it's sitting at 84%. So that's a huge leap. But I don't know how everyone else is feeling about that. So I'll leave it there.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wheaton?
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. I really appreciated the candid discussion on Monday night. I think it was great to hear where council is feeling about parking, about accessory dwelling units. I look forward to further discussions on that. I think that if we were to stay at 50%, the actual number of houses that would be able to add an ARU would actually be a very, very small number. So moving to the 65% opens up a lot of opportunity for existing housing units to add that one or first or second or third unit to their property. And so it has my full support for that reason.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? And I'll just, oh, sorry, Councillor Lauder?
Well, again, I will not support this ARUs, and I know that it's mandated by the province, but that's not to say that I have to agree with it. I really do have a problem with increasing to 65%. The green area is what happens to our trees and the environment. We're always speaking of the environment, and it's just, no one parks in their garage. And it's easy to say, yeah, there's 3 parking spots there. They're not, because the garages are full. And a lot of the garages anymore, if they could get their car in there, they can't get any storage. So that's what they use their garages for. So I will not support this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Tate?
Through the chair, and no surprise, I'm not supporting it because I've never supported it. I have a real issue with it. And I understand the province is mandating it, but like I always say, the province does their provincial policy, I swear, for Toronto and not for all us smaller communities. I think it would be tough to start losing our trees on our green space in Woodstock. That's one thing I think we're known for. I know I've had friends come from Toronto and they're like, wow, you have trees, you have green space, you have parks. So I can't support it.
Thank you. Any other? Councillor Schanberg?
Yeah, from the mayor through to Mr. Gilbert as well. I can't support this as well. I know it's one of those things where things have evolved over time from R2 down to R1 zoning. Can everyone be allowed it or not, depending on your lot size and whatnot? And I know there's fire code regulations and building code regulations when it comes to the standard or the size and even the quality of construction done for a basement apartment, for example. And I just find it's going to be very hard to meet it without creating, in essence, maybe not 200 amp service in most houses, but well over 100 amps probably won't carry the amperage people will need to be able to have 2 full living quarters under one roof.
Any other comments or questions? All right, I'll just simply state that as far as Councillor Sandberg's comments, I mean, building code requirements are there in place. There's going to be requirements. You know, I have no fears that way. Parking is my fear, and that's definitely why I will support the 65%. You know, looking at other neighborhoods in the area where they do allow 80% plus is excessive in my mind. And I remind council that this is for ARUs only. So it's very specific. It won't be everywhere if there's only applications. And in order to get those cars, as many cars as possible off the road from parking on the streets, we have to give them a parking spot. So we can't sit here and complain in my mind saying we don't have any housing or affordable apartments and then put limits in place to then restrict them a lot. So, and for that reason, I will be supporting this minor change to the front parking to allow the double wide parking spots for ARUs only at this point, of course. And with that, if there's no other comments or questions, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And opposed? It passes 4-3. Yeah, thank you. Adding on to this discussion right now, I'm curious about how council feels. As you see, we're not exactly all in line here with ARUs. ARUs are a reality. They are coming to all neighborhoods, not just the city of Woodstock. I've been kind of speaking with staff and trying to look at different ways how we can be collaborative and do this together and involve the public. So I'm curious if there would be an appetite if council would want to have a special meeting being held just on ARUs that similar to what we did for the CTS site, that we can invite, have delegation possibly as well as staff. Councillor Tate?
Through the chair, I think that's a fantastic idea. I think the public isn't aware of this big change coming through. No fault of councils, but I mean, we don't have any press anymore, but I think we had enough people come to the other information session. I think it'd be really important that the public is aware because it's a big change.
Okay, sorry about that. There was some discussion. Clerk is suggesting that probably should have been added before we did a final vote and included that in the last motion we just did. So I'm going to ask if we could suspend the rules, and if it's agreeable with everyone, then we'll just reintroduce something and move on as discussed. I believe Councillor Lauder might have some wording on something else from before we were discussing, if you would,
Not on
if you're
this.
interested. No, I know this is a different
But-
topic,
Okay,
but
okay, okay. So I am requesting that we move item 17, new business forward to deal.
no, sorry, no. How would you go about explaining this? Counselor Tate, since you brought it. Sorry?
Would a new motion satisfy the clerk
Yeah. that was-
or? Because we didn't have notice of it.
Your worship, through to council. So in a situation where we just bring a motion forward, there needs to be notice given either through disclosure of new business or a notice of motion, as we know. So to just put a motion on the floor would require council to suspend the rules and allow a motion to come forward without previous notice.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Tate, would you feel comfortable doing that? Yes, and a seconder, Counselor Wismer Van Meer. Discussion?
So I'm making a motion to suspend the rules to allow it to come to the floor. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Any discussion on that before I call the vote? Counselor Leatherborough?
I think it's a great idea. Councillor Lauder and I were just briefly exchanging that. I've heard from quite a few people since being elected in inquiring about ARUs, and then kind of the opposite end, it was some don't know what's happening. And I think we're doing a good job at engaging the public. So let's keep doing that. So I think this is a good idea.
Thank you. Counselor Wismer Van Meer?
just to echo what Councillor Leatherborough said, I think a lot of people don't understand what ARUs are.
I'm gonna, right now, we're just talking about pausing suspending
And I
the
think it's
rules. So,
important to have that
yeah.
information because folks don't understand.
yeah, we'll get back to a motion and then we can have that discussion. So if everybody's okay, I'm gonna call the vote to suspend the rules, right, the procedural rules right now. All those in favor? None opposed? Okay. Now we'll get into a motion. Looking for a motion on the floor. Counselor Tate,
Make the motion to schedule a public meeting to do with the planning matter that was just discussed on ARUs. Yeah, do we have a date?
well, we were discussing, if I may be so bold, when we were looking at calendars and everything else, November 9th looked like the best for staff and everything else, if that would accommodate everyone. A 1 PM meeting in the afternoon, so staff can attend.
That give it enough time for the public to be made aware? That's my only question.
Again, there was discussion on that as well. One of the reasons why I'm suggesting this, that we're going ahead with, is we do have future planning reports. So this is kind of a good direction for those, what we have to submit by December 15th. I might remind everybody. So trying to respect the timing and everything else. Do you have comments?
I'll add to it for November 9th at 1 PM.
Okay. And seconder, Counselor Wismer Van Meer. Any further discussion before I call the vote on having a special meeting November 9th at 1 PM to discuss ARUs, additional residential units here in the city of Woodstock, and what we'd like to see as council.
I think if I could just add a minor point to this, that I believe it would be in council's best use of time if you approach this in the vein of reviewing ways to increase density. So basically a density strategy, which would include ARUs, but it could include amendments to the zoning bylaw elsewhere that would have the outcomes of creating the potential for additional housing. So my suggestion is that this meeting would be something on the similar vein as to what council did with respect to the strategic plan, where we would invite the planners to come and put ideas in front of council for open discussion as to how we can approach density strategies to accomplish greater housing density in the city. And the idea would be the output from this would be incorporated into the housing pledge that we have to complete by December 15th.
I'm gonna go Counselor Wheaton. Okay, so if that's okay with Counselor Wheaton, we'll have the,
The motion was
Thank
cleaned
you.
up, so I'm gonna read the motion. That Woodstock City Council schedules a special council meeting for Thursday, November 9th, 2023 at 1:30 PM for the purpose of considering gentle density strategies which would be included in the City of Woodstock Housing Pledge.
okay, Counselor Wheaton?
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. Just to clarify, would that be a public meeting under the Planning Act?
Your worship, through to Councillor Wheaton. So it would not be, this would be a council meeting for council to consider possibilities for amendments to the zoning bylaw, which if council decided to move forward with a comprehensive amendment to the zoning bylaw, then that would come back in the form of a planning application and a statutory public meeting under the Planning Act. But the meeting we're talking about for November 9th is simply a council meeting to discuss where council's comfort is to move the mark on density strategies in the zoning bylaw.
Okay, Counselor Schadenberg.
Yeah, it's just a question or a comment. I know the county of Oxford is currently under sort of a BIA area or entrepreneurial area, trying to determine how many floors we could possibly build in the city of Woodstock. We go to 8 stories, 10 stories, 12 stories based on retail or not on the main floor, et cetera, et cetera. Would that be available by that time? Because I know the county's planning office was pretty close to having something determined for that.
To Councillor Schadenberg, the overall, we are aiming to have an overall report about the downtown residential intensification and density in response to the council resolution. Likely in January would be a report for comprehensive options, but a lot of the work that we would go into that, we could bring forward to this special meeting for consideration.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, any other comments or thoughts before I call the vote on that? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor for a special meeting November 9th, 1:30 p.m. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Now we will get back to the regular scheduled program. I appreciate your patience on that. I've never had to do that before. Next up, we have 10, consideration of correspondence. Looking for a motion on 10A, request to name a street. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
I move that Woodstock City Council add the name DeSaris to the list of possible street names in the city of Woodstock.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Tate, discussion? Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Of course, this is available on the agenda for folks to read, but Joanna DeSaris Brett, who submitted this suggestion, gives a little bit of history in her family coming to this community and bringing a large French-speaking portion to that, in the fact that her family was part of the push to bring Saint Marguerite Bourgeois to our community. And I think that's something that definitely deserves some recognition. And I think it's worthwhile for us to add this name to the list and recognize the family and what brought the French school board to our community.
I just asked the CAO if he knew how many names were on that list, and as I thought, there's lots. So just so public is aware, this does not mean immediate, or there is no guarantees. But any other questions, thoughts? Councillor Leatherborough?
I really enjoyed reading this, and I'll definitely support adding this to the name bank. And it says Gaston and Teresa arrived in Woodstock in 1967 from Cornwall. So I just thought I would take an opportunity to also plug Cornwall. Senator Bernadette Clement is a legal aid lawyer and politician, and she's also the first woman to be elected as mayor of Cornwall and the first Black woman to serve as a mayor in Ontario. So prior to that, she served 3 terms as a city councillor. So it just all wraps in very nicely.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? We'll call the vote. All those in favor? That is unanimous, carried. No staff presentations tonight, no mayor's reports. We do have a councillor report, 13A. Councillor Lauder.
At this time, I'm going to request that we move item 17, new business, forward to deal with it at this time.
Okay, so you're requesting to bring that before the councillor report,
Yes.
okay? That is up to council. Is there any objection to that? Councillor Leatherborough? Yes, objection. Would you like to speak to that then?
Yeah, I just think that they kind of do go hand in hand, so I'm happy to do the vote after, but I think that there's actually some good to discuss as we go into a heavy debate. So I'd like it to stay where it is.
Okay, any other thoughts on that? Councillor Tate?
Yeah, through the chair, I could see moving up new business after Counselor Leatherborough's report. They do go hand in hand, but I would do the report first and then the second one.
Yeah, Counselor Lauder, are you okay with that then? Okay, then we'll take that off and we'll go back to 13A. Provincial consideration, Counselor Leatherborough.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council requests that the government of Ontario establish a portion of the 396 new addiction treatment beds created by the Addictions Recovery Fund in the city of Woodstock. And further, that this report and resolution be circulated to the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honorable Michael Tibolo, Associate Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, the Honorable Ernie Hardeman, Oxford MPP, and Oxford County Council.
Thank you. Looking for a seconder on the motion. Counselor Wismer Van Meer. Discussion, Counselor Leatherborough.
Through your worship to my peers, I wanted to put this together and I used the counselor report because I was almost trying to encompass how my view on the special meeting of council and how I could kind of bundle that in with a correspondence tagline, if you will. I do think that special meeting of council, which we'll likely share a bit more in the next agenda item, but I found it really beneficial. It's not an easy thing to talk about what our community and many communities are facing. I don't think anybody has a one size fits all one solution. But what I heard repeatedly that again brought unity across the city and across our council was that we do need some more supports for treatment. And you know, I lightly say, wouldn't it be nice to have all of the money in the world and all of the solutions? And I'm sure there would be a lot of people behind us asking that very thing. So for those at home, I have included my takeaways from the special meeting of council at large, but I've also included one more recent article from the CBC, and it's titled Ontario pauses new supervised consumption site approvals pending review. And rather than reading the entire article, what really jumped off the page to me was the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions was quoted. He stressed the most important thing the government is doing is creating capacity in the system to help by adding 7,000 treatment spots across the province. And when I read this kind of new direction with the province, I thought, well, that really is still going to be our goal. Yes, politics, you never all agree, but this is something that we want the best for our community, whatever that does look like. And there was a cry and need for treatment. And further to that, the second link will take you to the Addictions Recovery Fund that was released, I suppose, in 2022. And so when you dive a little bit deeper, it does specify 396 new addiction treatment beds. So as small of a number as it reads, I really want us to, stretch our laurels and put our hands up high and put ourselves on the map to be a very worthy candidate. We are the largest municipality in Oxford County. We do host a variety of services. I'm fortunate to have peers in other municipalities and townships, and they too are now looking around their communities, how they can also carry some of the weight that we're all facing. And so I just wanted to bundle this together as a council report as I've done in the past, but the recommendation is to circulate it to Mr. Ernie Hardeman as well as Oxford County Council because we have 3 strong voices that go to the other side of the street. But I would like them to be aware too that, lower tier councillors like myself, we want to help and we want to do this collectively and collaboratively. And we do host the Woodstock Hospital. So if at the very least we draw some attention to Woodstock and our unique need, it would also be great if area municipalities put their support behind us. And it made for a further stretch to say we support Woodstock in requesting that they be picked for some of these beds. So I appreciate staff for wordsmithing it and for this avenue to say my takeaways as well as how I view us as a council when it comes to treatment. And I'm just really happy that we took it upon ourselves to do the special meeting of council. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Tate.
Just through the chair. And so this funding, I had asked back in August to our staff if we could access it. And as it turns out, the answer I got back would be that we can't because we are not the transfer agency and it'd have to be, the access would be because it's Ministry of Health funding. So other local agencies can access it. So I thought that the county could too. So I'd asked the county at the time if they could access it, and the county could not access it. But what I got back from the county, because I wanted them to refresh my memory of who got some money from this funding. But he said a couple of the agencies in Oxford did get funding from it. But the thing that upsets me the most, and I'm glad that Councillor Leatherall brought this forward, is because we were going through all this, like the past few years, I asked the MPP's office, how do we get funding from the province? We have this huge problem. How do we get funding? So the answer was you have to get a proposal together and submit it. That's the only way you can get it. So I've been really frustrated because these other agencies came forward again. They have to apply for the funding. We can yell and scream at them, and I think it's really important that we do. They have to get the proposal because they're the only ones that can access the funding. So the more we can bring forward at our level, and I think we need to send to the agencies, they need to start working together, work together to get a proposal. So when I had sent it to the CAO about getting the funding from that, he did send me a link and I forwarded it to you so you have it, but there's one municipality that did. They all worked together and they got funding. But that's our problem. We can't access it because it's not at our, we are not allowed to access it. And from what the CEO at the county told me, they couldn't access the funding either. So if they could all start working together and get a proposal together, submit it, then maybe Oxford and Woodstock being the largest municipality, we could get some help.
Thank you, Councillor Wheaton.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. Just to follow up on Councillor Tate's comments and Councillor Leatherborough's motion. We very specifically identified in our strategic plan that working in partnership with other agencies to develop a campus of wraparound services. This to me is exactly what we're talking about, or it's exactly what I meant when I typed those words when we did our strategic planning session. I think that we have a tremendous opportunity to not just as the city of Woodstock, but to walk alongside and lend our voice with other organizations and agencies to get this message to the province that this is desperately needed in our community. And I would say in conversations that I actually just talked with Ernie Hardiman about this just the other day, and he said, send me a letter, send me the link to the article. He's very interested in advocating our behalf. I talked with Southwestern Public Health. They're very interested in working with us to advocate for these treatment beds in our community. Safe and Well Oxford, the steering committee, the Safe and Well Oxford plan is a plan that, while initiated by the county, it is on behalf of the city of Woodstock, and mental health and addiction misuse and treatments is very clearly identified in that plan. That is our plan. There are so many resources for us to lean on to rally us all together and to encourage those agencies with all of our collective supports. I think that starts to build the plan that Councillor Tate is referring to ensure that this funding comes to our community. Our percentage of the funding, it's not going to change the world overnight, but if we don't fight for it, it will go to another community, and we need it to come here.
Thank you. Councillor Tate.
Yeah, just to follow up and through the chair, Councillor Leatherborough's well aware of this because she sits on the board, but that was the intent of the shelter, was Operation Sharing. That was my motion, mental health and addiction. And as we said, Sean Shapton made a presentation to county last meeting or two meetings ago, and there was crickets around the table. And I keep saying that was the motion. We passed that over a year ago. So I'm still waiting for the community partners to jump in that, and that they're supposed to be helping with that. So when this money came forward, there was no conversation with Operation Sharing. So I finally found the email from the CEO at the county. So the county didn't get the money, but it went to, there were some local partners did get funding. So Indwell got some, CMHA, Thames Valley got some, and Woodstock Hospital. But it didn't go to the shelter. So I still, there's a lot of work to be done for the partners to all work together. And if they could work, we have like a smaller model right now. If they would work with that, I think it'd be a big change.
Yes. Thank you. Anyone else? No. Oh, Councillor Leatherborough.
Do your worship, one last thing. Hopefully too, I have registered for Roma. And so hopefully this can also be something on our radar now that I won't be lost amongst all the politicians as I was the first time. And just thanks for everyone's comments tonight on this.
Thank you. I'll certainly continue from my position on our behalf as mayor to advocate every opportunity I can. I do have a meeting with Minister Tabello next week coincidentally as well, so I'll certainly bring this forward if we're successful on this motion, that this is a direction. I do believe in this. I think we have to be clear as a city that treatment is something, and that was very unanimous at our strategic planning, as Councillor mentioned a few minutes ago. We have to continue on and being as loud as possible, I think, in order to be heard, and that's the truth of it. With that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. It is unanimous. Thank you. And then next up, Councillor Lauder would like to
I think,
make your motion to bring it forward.
Oh.
To make.
Uh,
Yeah, okay. If there's no objection from council, if that's okay, we'll bring forward 17, I think it's by itself, not a 17A. Correct. So if no objection from council to bring forward 17 under new business. Any objections? Seeing none. Councillor Schadenberg.
Whereas at the June 22nd, 2023 Southwestern Public Health Board of Health meeting, a report entitled Consumption and Treatment Services Feasibility Study Findings Report was approved unanimously. And whereas this report included an exploration of the need for and feasibility of consumption and treatment services in Oxford and Elgin counties, and whereas this report concluded that the region served by Southwestern Public Health would benefit from consumption and treatment services, and whereas this report recommended proceeding with phase 2 of the study, which would involve identifying a potential consumption and treatment services site in the city of Woodstock. And whereas this report also acknowledges that some people do not support this strategy, creating the need of ongoing consultation and engagement with the community, business owners and operators, health systems and community partners to support the ongoing exploration of consumption and treatment services in the region. And whereas Woodstock City Council hosted a public meeting on September 26th, 2023 to receive information and feedback from stakeholders and citizens regarding a possible consumption and treatment services site in the city, including also delegations, Dr. Nin Tran from Medical Officer of Health for Southwestern Public Health, a delegation from the Oxford County Community Health Center, along with the Canadian Mental Health Association and others, with all members of council in attendance. And whereas the Consumption and Treatment Services Application Guide from the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care requires the local municipal council support, i.e. a council resolution or letter endorsing the consumption and treatment services must be obtained. And whereas a council resolution of non-support for a consumption site, a safe injection site in the city of Woodstock before the commencement of phase 2 of the study would prevent unnecessary time and effort on any ongoing exploration and consideration of a site within the city of Woodstock. Now therefore be resolved that the city of Woodstock does not support a consumption and treatment services site within the municipal boundaries of the city of Woodstock, and further that Woodstock City Council does, however, support the development of a campus of treatment of services around addiction, mental health, rehabilitation, and transitional housing, which does not include consumption services. And further that this resolution be circulated to Southwest Public Health, Oxford MP Arpan Kana, Oxford MPP Ernie Hardeman, Ontario Premier Doug Ford, the Minister of Health Sylvia Jones, and Associate Minister of Mental Health and Addictions Michael Tabolo.
Thank you. That motion is moved by yourself, but I'm looking for a seconder on that. Councillor Tate. Discussion? Councillor Schadenberg, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, I know within the last couple or 3 weeks, I don't remember off the top of my head what was the exact date, that the province of Ontario had decided they were going to analyze and take a look at the free consumption sites or the safe consumption sites throughout the province of Ontario. And I do have several pages here of information I've written down, but I think some of the important points that could be made is, for example, there's 4 communities in the province of Ontario that do have a safe consumption site, who don't receive provincial funding for it. So the municipality has to, in 3 cases, the municipality is the one that's paying for it. In another case, it is the public health unit that is actually paying for it. But at the end of the day, that comes down to taxation and how many different programs are important for people. And I started looking at things like being healthcare services, different areas, for example, autism, kids that are aging out of the autism program who can no longer get funding. There's so many other different aging people who are not quite the age of 65 who can't qualify for help in some of their medications that they need to be able to live day in and day out, to be able to start putting forward some of this other stuff about having a free consumption site ahead of the fact that the city of Woodstock does not have any dedicated rehab beds. And that kind of goes along with Mrs. Leatherbarrow's, Kate's motion here tonight, to sort of say that the
That's
city of
Councillor
Woodstock
Leatherborough.
needs
Point of order.
dedicated sites as well to be able
Yeah, hold
to
on.
go forward.
Point of order was called. I'm not sure you did that on purpose or not. I only heard it one time. My apology. The request is to refer to Councillor Leatherborough,
Councilor Leatherbarrow, sure.
please, going forward. Thank you.
That's essentially the comment I wanted to make. I've got other notes still, but that'll suffice for now.
Okay. Any other discussion? Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
I will not be supporting the motion for a number of reasons, and I could go off on notes as well, but I think the two that glare at me is this is just an exploratory stage. We're not saying that CTS is coming. We're looking to see what is the best options for our community and Oxford County as a whole. Whether that's something that runs parallel with consumption treatment services, including other wraparound services. I've spoke to a few other folks that are experts in this field because I am not. So, you know, in their eyes, there's more than just a brick and mortar opportunity. There could be mobile services rather than a brick and mortar. There could be the opportunities of this being CTS has to include wraparound services in that facility. So there's a lot of discussions that still have to take place. It feels very premature to just cut this off before that's even happened. Also, as Councillor Schattenberg mentioned, the provincial government has paused these reviews or paused these applications for a review at this point in time. So, you know, why are we in a hurry to stop this with not knowing what could be coming out of this and what the provincial government could be coming out to say? I think that whether you're on the side of being in favor of it or not being in favor of it, that's not what this discussion is about for me. It's about the fact that right now our provincial government has paused these, so a decision doesn't feel crucial at this exact moment to me.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. I am in favor of the motion in that I do not agree with the safe injection site. I heard the delegations who experienced drug addiction loud and clear on the 26th of September, and I've received several phone calls, emails, etc., from the public. I fully support the funding from all levels of government as required for the development of the campus for treatment services around addiction, mental health, rehabilitation, and transitional housing, which I've always been in favor of. And I know there is no easy fix, but I do agree with operation sharing and what they're doing in our community. And I do agree with the motion that Councillor Leatherborough has brought forward, that we need more beds, and if we can get any of that support. And I remember at the AMO conference, I think it was the mayor from Kingston has been able to work together, and they seem to be having quite a bit of good success. But he said it was really important for the organized different groups to work together, come together, and not all be trying to get money from this one and this one, work together. So I do definitely support that we need more beds, more just everything here to support the people that needs this help. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Leatherborough.
Through your worship, I will not be supporting this motion, and I'm gonna try to keep into two specifics with this motion. And that'll explain why, with prefacing that the government, as of October 5th, as we know, has said we're gonna pause it all because what happens inside safely has to be safe outside. And I think that rang true with everyone that participated at the special meeting of council. So when it says, and whereas a council resolution of non-support for a consumption site bracket safe injection site, not that I am an expert, but it's called a consumption site. It's not called a safe injection site. And that was indicated in our special meeting of council. And further to that, fentanyl can be smoked, not just injected. So we have to be really cautious with language. In the city of Woodstock, before the commencement of phase 2 of the study would prevent unnecessary time and effort on any ongoing exploration and consideration of a site within the city of Woodstock. So what that just jumps off the page and says to me is that we are comfortable, or you are comfortable, whomever, stopping further consultation with the people that are providing the frontline services. And I'm not comfortable doing that. I think this is super premature. I think it was premature in June, but I think that we've still, come out agreeing on some aspects of our efforts. But we had first responders, healthcare providers, and I received a lot of feedback. Not all in favor, don't get me wrong, but I spoke to people that were particularly not in favor. And when we actually talked about the scope and that continuum of care from treatment to whatever prior to that road to recovery, it's very different and very personal for everybody. So that alone really just speaks to me that we're going to cut it off right at the legs. I think Councillor Wismer Van Meer used that expression. And we're not going to let the professionals and the healthcare providers continue discussions. And I'm not prepared to do that. And further to that, the other part was, and whereas the consumption and treatment services application guide from the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care requires that local municipal council support, i.e. a council resolution / letter endorsing the consumption and treatment services must be obtained. And I almost feel like that's not even accurate, because when I'm looking at the 3 recommendations that came out of phase 1, phase 3, and I'm happy to take debate on this, but number 3 rather says, pending the outcome of the consultation process outlined in recommendation number 1 and 2, Southwest Public Health acronym will help draft the federal exemption application and get letters of support to aid the provincial funding application from the receptive cities and locations, i.e. the city of St. Thomas and or city of Woodstock, based on community and partner readiness to take part. So I just feel that we've almost had this language of it's coming tomorrow. I had people asking if it was going to be in downtown, if it was going to be by the hospital, and we're not even close to that. And so whether one day we got a zone change, one day we got a tax budget that actually paid for this, that would be a different conversation, and we would have to do more consultation. So it's just very premature. It's very blurry for the average citizen who is very invested in the community and the health and well-being of everybody. So those are my reasonings that I will not support this motion. And I just find that it was just very confusing to read through, that ultimately, if you don't want a consumption site, you might as well say that. And that's how the vote will likely go, depending if that's what you're trying to say.
Thank you. I'm going to go Councillor Schadenberg, since it's his motion on this one.
I don't know how long I'm going to talk this time, but when the pause was put on by the province of Ontario, the very first thing that Southwest Public Health said on London Free Press and on CTV London is, this doesn't change anything. We're going to continue to go through with our studies and our work towards possibly having a safe consumption site, or whatever you want to call it. We know what it is in the city of Woodstock or county of Oxford or the county of Elgin. So it doesn't matter to me that it was paused by the provincial government. And what's interesting is Oxford County Community Health Center, who was here as part of our delegation, they profess to like the use of Suboxone, and somebody's being able to maybe wean themselves off an opiate. And it doesn't matter if they're putting it in with their cocaine or what they are, how dangerous fentanyl is. We all know that. But at the end of the day, Suboxone is actually a tablet that goes under your tongue.
Councillor Wismer Van Meer, I believe, was next. Was it? Okay, thank you for that. Okay, Councillor Wheaton.
So as the Vice Chair of Southwestern Public Health, I won't support the motion as it is. I do want to address Councillor Schadenberg's comment that Southwestern Public Health did say after October 5th that the recommendations of continuing with phase 2 would continue. At June 22nd, the board gave direction to staff and to the medical officer of health to initiate phase 2, and that is the ongoing direction of the board. The Board of Southwestern Public Health has not met since the October 5th news of the pause. The Board of Health will meet next week. So the landscape has changed significantly. I fully anticipate that the provincial review, the news of the provincial review will be on the agenda next Thursday. I fully anticipate that further discussion on next steps will be on the agenda next Thursday. I can't presuppose what the outcome of that will be because it's a representation from St. Thomas Elgin and Oxford. So I would support a deferral of this motion until we can learn more, until, I think, as Councillor Leatherborough said, it's very premature to move this motion now. I understand that there is a lot of concern around a potential future location that could be months, years down the road before we get to that phase. And there are so many options around what a location might look like. In the study, a mobile option was identified, multiple fixed use sites so that it would rotate around a community. It was very clearly identified that downtown is not ideal and definitely on the main street is not ideal. There's things we do know, but there's a whole lot that we don't know yet. And I would like Southwestern Public Health to be able to have the opportunity to complete the study and then bring those recommendations to us as a community to well-informed make a decision going forward.
Thank you. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Just kind of a response to Councillor Lauder, who referenced Kingston, and I was at AMO. Just so you know, they actually have a CTS in Kingston, which does actually work in that hub that the mayor was speaking to. They have the wraparound services. They have the CTS with those wraparound services. So we're talking about the success of a CTS. Kingston is one of the locations that actually does have one. I might need the support of our clerk, but I would like to move put a motion forward to actually defer this motion. We are on a timeline, would have to be in December because of this being a notice of motion. But I think that any time that we can give ourselves for the provincial government to come back is worthwhile to consider. So Ms. Humphries, is this would I just present my motion at this time and look for a seconder?
Yes.
Okay,
That
so
would be fine, and we'll move on with this right now. Go ahead.
that the motion regarding a consumption and treatment services site within the municipal boundaries of the city of Woodstock be postponed until December 2023, pending the undertaking of a provincial review of the CTS facilities and protocols.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder on that motion before we discuss it? Councillor Wheaton, okay, discussion. Would you like to speak to that, Councillor Wismer?
I don't have much more to add, just then that I think that it's only, I did reach out to each councillor individually, and I do appreciate those that did respond to me, just understanding that for me, this feels very premature to make this decision under the pause from the provincial government. That's why I put this motion forward. I still would like to see the exploratory stage happening, but this is to deal with this motion right here.
As seconder, would you like to speak to this, Councillor Wheaton?
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. I support the deferral because I think there's a lot more information that we need. I'm concerned that we've just had a conversation about advocating for treatment beds. If we say right now that CTS is not what we want in our community, I fear that a CTS will go to another town in our community, in our county, or in our region, and therefore treatment beds would follow that consumption site and would be co-located, and they wouldn't end up here in Woodstock. So I feel like we need a lot more information to verify some of that before we can make a decision. So that's why I support the deferral.
Counselor Tate?
I'm not going to support the deferral. We've had, the province is not coming back with any more information because obviously we have to do this by December. I think all of us have our minds made up. I don't know what, it's not going to change my mind. I don't think it's going to change anybody's mind in another month. So get on with it, and I will ask for a recorded vote for the deferral.
Okay, any other discussion before call the vote? Counselor Leatherborough?
I hummed and hawed about a deferral, and I don't think I can defer either because we have had this since June. And I'm hopeful that some great information comes and everybody that might be nay rethinks. I hope we stay on the track of advocating because that's where our job really lies. But I'm really torn on deferring because I think that everyone's pretty well made up. So just a general comment of that.
Thank you. Any other comments? Well, I'm going to say a couple of things, if I may. This on the deferral. This is on the deferral. Thank you. I will be in favor of a deferral, and these are my reasons. Though I'm getting my head around the idea. I'm not quite sure I'm in favor of a consumption site here in the city of Woodstock. I'll be clear. I've said this before. I'm definitely would never approve or think of one downtown Woodstock. I want to be clear on that. I do like the idea of a deferral for the simple reasons of the province is putting basically a deferral on this. I mean, if we look at what's coming, we don't know what's coming on with this. Unfortunately, I'm not sure we'll find out by December because we are mandated to bring this back by December. And we may know absolutely nothing more, but we might. And that is the only reason why I would right now, because if they change the way safe consumption is looked at or a CTS site is looked at, it was mentioned earlier, a mobile bus, maybe I would be in favor. I don't know. I'm not saying I am. I'm not saying I'm not. But if they came back with something that I did like, I would absolutely not want to take us off the list to miss out on those beds. We do need something treatment. What we're doing right now is not working here in the city of Woodstock, in my opinion. We have to do something. And and for that reason, for right now, I'll leave it at that. I would go with the deferral over anything else. Councillor Tate?
Yeah, just a final comment on that. And I caution you because the public's watching and everybody is waiting to see what's going on because there's a lot of ants. And I don't think we're not getting any more information. Honestly, I mean, it's another month and a half away. So we're just kicking it down the road again because we don't want to make a decision. So I cannot support a deferral.
No. Okay, any other comments or questions before I call the vote on the deferral? Only at this time. Okay, seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Oh, it's a recorded vote. My apologies. Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. So for recorded vote, we start with the mover of the motion. So Councillor Wismer Van Meer,
Yes.
Mayor Accioni,
Yes.
Councillor Lauder,
No.
Councillor Leatherbarrow,
Nay.
Councillor Schadenberg,
No.
Councillor Tate,
Oh.
and Councillor Whedon.
Yes.
That motion is defeated.
Okay, thank you. Motion defeated. So now we will go back to the original motion by Councillor Schadenberg. Any other? Councillor Leatherborough?
Can I get a recorded vote for this, please?
Councillor Tate?
Yes, I never spoke to it yet, so I'll try and keep it short. No, it's okay. No, that's good. I will be supporting the motion. Done a lot of research through this over the years because, as I had mentioned to Councillor Leatherbarrow, this has been ongoing for probably 5 or 6 years in the city of Woodstock. It's the #1 topic. from all the research I've done, this is not the way to go. And as Councillor Schadenberg had mentioned, there's only one taxpayer. The money needs to go in specific places. I strong advocate for detox and mental health beds, but it has to be with wraparound services. So in that, it's support once you get out of detox. So from the meeting, I thought it was pretty clear from anybody that has been addicted, families that have dealt with addiction, and talking to those in the law enforcement, the safe injection site is not the way to go. And I fully understand, like with addiction, if you talk to a former addict, it's really difficult to stay away. So if it is available, they're going to do it. I had a conversation with a friend of mine that's a former addict. He's been recovered for 15 years. He told me he'd gone to a detox, but when he came out, there was programs, so it was helpful. But the sad thing is, it's like AA, you have to go to meetings every week. And he told me the other day, there's less and less people coming to the meetings because the drugs are so readily available. So people are getting re-addicted. And of course, we know with the drugs now, they're worse than they ever are. So I cannot be party to that. There's only, and as I said, there's only so much money to go around. Everybody is asking for their fair share. But I think it needs to be concentrated to detox. The best way to serve these people is detox, programs for them when they come out, and for mental health. I know the services tried to tell you that there is no crime. The crime is off the scales around these places. Talk to any police officer in a city that has them, and it's at least a 6-block radius. Now you think about that in a city of Woodstock, that would be all the way, if it was in the downtown area, all the way to Devonshire. It would destroy the city. So you have to look at everybody. There's all these other things that go with it, not just the people that are helping, but all the other taxpayers in the city we have to think about. And I think it was one of the municipalities are now on the hook for it. It's $80,000 a month. So think about that money, if it could go into detox or for programs, and the mental health. We have, I think, 12 beds or something assigned to Oxford County, and they're not even here, they're in St. Thomas. So there's a shortage everywhere, and I think we need to concentrate on that. And as for being, think that this is like we're going ahead before we're getting more information. I don't know what more information we need. There's only so much money. So that's why I'm going to support the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, just want to clarify that I'm 1,000% behind rehab facilities, 1,000% behind all the other wraparound services that are necessary before any kind of a safe consumption site is considered anywhere. One thing I did in research, and I got several pages of research here, so please don't dare tell me I haven't done my research. I Googled and looked for Narcotics Anonymous in Woodstock. Apparently at one point in time, I was at the Epiphany Church, but it's suspended. It's not going on right now. But wouldn't that be the first thing you would want to have is a Narcotics Anonymous? So people that do want a group to talk to, where a former addict is talking to a current addict to help them out of their situation, 12-step program or no 12-step program, we don't have it. Let's get the bases down before we start trying to get a person on the moon.
Thank you. I'm not sure who put a hand up first. Councillor Leatherborough.
Through your worship, I'll just add to that, by next Tuesday, when we've hit our 1-year mark, I'll no longer say I'm a new counselor, but when Councillor Schadenberg, you comment on all of the research that you've done, I'm sure you have. I actually don't deny that you haven't looked into this. But the one thing I think the public should know is that whether we agree to disagree, I never heard from you about this and your motion to understand where your passions come from, why you think that this is best for the community. So I think when you're invited to reciprocate the communication with your colleague for future big motions and decisions, I would just like to be privy to the knowledge and information that you have so researched.
Okay. Councillor Wheaton.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. I won't be supporting the motion. From a harm reduction lens, a CTS, as we heard during our public meeting, the goal and the outcome of CTS is to keep people alive longer until they are ready to seek treatment. I'm not okay with the number of deaths that we've had this year. This motion indicates that some people are okay with deaths, and I'm absolutely not okay.
That point of
with that.
order, that is unacceptable. That You're assuming
Okay.
that we are okay with deaths. Is that what you're?
Okay, all right. That's enough. We'll ask that you move along.
I think that we have, and I don't know that anyone can argue that we have a number of unsafe injection sites in our community right now. We do have people unfortunately using in our community in an unsafe way. And for that reason, I support consumption and treatment services and do not support this motion.
Thank you. Counselor Schattenberg?
One of the websites I was looking through about safe consumption sites, don't know if it was British Columbia or Ontario, where it was at this point in time, was saying that the person that would be on staff would help you find a vein if you needed help finding a vein. And if you really want to start pushing things a little bit further on that, that's the one thing that really gets to the point sometimes where you think, if it's so important, I can't find a safe consumption site anywhere that's open 24/7. In fact, most of them close at like 9 PM at night, including the one in London. If I was going to be in the party mood, my party would start probably at 11 PM when the safe consumption sites are closed.
No, this is highly emotional, so everybody breathe. We'll move on here. Any other questions before I make a comment? Okay, seeing none. I will be supporting this motion for the simple reasons that I do not support in the basic concept of the consumption site itself. I am strongly in favor of looking at all the wraparound services and everything else, but really looking at today's financial state we're in, I would much rather see any of those dollars spent on helping those that want help in treatment beds and facilities and everything else. It was mentioned, yes, people are dying on the streets, and I realize that, and this has been a really tough one. This is where I've got to take Jerry away from mayor, and I keep going back and forth on this, and ultimately, because the deferral didn't last, and because we have to make a decision now on this, unfortunately, I'm still not sold on the idea of an actual safe injection or consumption site here in the city of Woodstock. And yeah, but I certainly hope the province, and while I'm speaking with them every opportunity, I'll keep advocating and hoping we have better treatment facilities here in the city of Woodstock. And with that, I will call the vote. It's a recorded vote. Thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. We'll start with Counselor Schattenberg,
Yes.
Counselor Tate,
Yes.
Counselor Wheaton,
No.
Counselor Wismer Van Meer,
No.
Mayor Accioni,
Yes.
Counselor Lauder,
Yes.
and Counselor Leatherbarrow.
Nay.
That motion carries 4-3.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Now, again, we'll go back to we are at statement of revenue. Yes. 14A1 department reports. Counselor Tate.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council receive the statement of revenue and expenditure and the statement of capital expenditures for the period ending September 30th, 2023 as information.
Thank you. Looking for a seconder. Counselor Lauder, discussion. Counselor Tate.
Just one thing, and it's because we had this short little discussion the other day and about grants. And we're obviously not going to get very much funding anymore. But I did notice that, and I've always liked to pump her up, but that our art gallery curator has always been very prosperous when she gets grants. So when you read that, I'm always happy to see that because she's great at writing for grants and getting them. So that was the only comment.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Oh, Counselor Wheaton?
Marancho, and I was just trying to find my spot on the page. I noticed that a number of committees we're well into the year. We're 10 months into the year, and a number of committees are still quite underspent. Some are even at 10% of their spending. And I know that some, maybe September and October expenses haven't been captured yet. Is this common? I don't know if finance staff or senior staff want to answer that we kind of end of the year backload some of these things, or are we budgeting more than what we need in some committees?
Your worship, through to Councillor Wheaton, the answer to that question is probably best directed to the councillor or the staff representative that sits on each of those respective committees. But if you're interested in a general comment, I think general comment is yes, they are traditionally underspent.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on that before we call a vote? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? None opposed, carried. Next up, 14A.2, application for tax relief under sections 3571 and 3581 of the Municipal Act. Councillor Lauder?
Thank you. I'll move that Woodstock City Council direct the treasurer to cancel, reduce, or refund the taxes levied in 2021, 2022, and 2023 as detailed in the report.
Thank you. Looking for a seconder? Councillor Tate, discussion? Yeah, we got to ask him a question. I mean, we have to put him on the spot, make him feel uncomfortable, and it's tradition. Nobody?
I'll just,
A late night. Councillor Lauder.
I'll just ask, why would we go back to 2021? I know the answer, but I'll just ask you.
Your worship, to the council's question, per the municipal act under section 358 allows you to go back up to 2 years. So because of that, that's why I go back to 20.
See, that wasn't so hard. Okay, and with that, if there's nothing else, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed, carried. 14A.3 OILC financing bylaw approval, revised. Looking for a motion? Councillor Tate, second by Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Make a motion to refer to the bylaws.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? None opposed, carried. Nothing from engineering or cultural services, parks and recreation, 14D.1 fair program. Councillor Leatherbarrow, seconded by Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council approves community employment services as a third party that can provide documentation to confirm LICO status and Woodstock resident status. And further, that Woodstock City Council approves the changes to council policy PR 017 fee assistance in recreation.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councillor Wismer Van Meer. Sorry, I'm going to go to Councillor Leatherbarrow if that's okay, since you made the motion first.
Through your worship, I was wondering if Mr. Connors could just give us a brief summary of what this great report means.
Your worship, through to the councilor's question. What we're doing here is we're trying to take down another barrier for people to access this this fund. What has come up is that we require some documentation to access this fund. Woodstock resident, that you meet the LICO standard, and some refugees and new Canadians don't have that documentation yet, but are working with this group to get said documentation, and this will provide them a year's kind of grace to access our program as they're getting their paperwork in order.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
Just a general comment. I think that this is a great opportunity. Community Employment Services has a great service that they offer there to the newcomers and great staff that work very closely with them and make some really great relationships. And I'm really glad to see that we're able, as a municipality, to work with CES in this capacity and support the newcomers to our community, because there's a lot of, it's quite the maze to get through it. And I think this is really great, and on many levels, but especially for some of the young folk that are coming. Some of them have been through some very traumatic experiences, and to be able to, assist them even further and hopefully getting them into some of our recreation programs, I think is fantastic. So kudos to, to Mr. Connors and CES to being able to get this up and going.
Counselor Schanberg.
Yeah, thanks, the mayor, through to Brian Connors as well. The fair program in general, obviously it's for athletics within the city of Woodstock for, say, aquatics programming and whatnot. But what about athletics or recreation outside of what would be a city grouping, say youth bowling or badminton or martial arts or even recreation like Girl Guides programs? Can they somehow apply through to fair programming as well?
Your worship, through to the councillor's question, the program works with city programs. That's how we are able to track the funding. It has to be a city program that's offered. We do use other programs like the Canadian Tire Fund for some other programs. However, council did pass and grew this, so it's not just culture and recreation, it's also for transit. And I think specifically, the request came out with transit in mind, so people could, these newcomers, a lot of them now from Ukraine, can get to their jobs. So that's, I know, a big push in this piece of where it's coming from.
Thank you. Counselor Leatherborough.
I think it's worth mentioning too, in the report, annually, community employment services spend more than 50,000 in single use and monthly bus passes, cabs, and gas allowances to get clients to interviews, appointments, and to start working. So I had heard of a rough number, but that was quite eye-opening, and I'm just really glad that this is coming together.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Counselor Schanberg.
I guess the logical question then, is there enough funds in the fund to be able to do this?
Your worship, through to the councillor's question. We have been kind of at the end of the year to finish up the funds, but there should be some funds right now. We are not talking about a lot of people that would be accessing this fund. So we're hoping to make sure that we can get to the end of the year to do that, and staff are working with the rest of the people that are using the FAIR program. If they're finished using the end of their funds, staff are connecting with them to see if we could pull that money back to give out to others who need it.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed, carried. Certainly like this idea, I might add as well. So thank you to staff. Economic development, 14E.1, extension of build commitment. Looking for a motion? Counselor Wheaton.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. That Woodstock City Council authorized the mayor and clerk to amend the performance requirements of the purchase and sale agreement to provide for the extension of the commitment to construct a building to the end of 2024.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Counselor Wismer Van Meer. Discussion? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Next up, 14E.2, proposed sale of city-owned industrial land. For a motion, Counselor Lauder, seconded by Counselor Schanberg.
Thank you. I'll move that Woodstock City Council authorize the mayor and clerk to sign an agreement of purchase and sale with 588922 Ontario Inc. for 11 acres of city-owned industrial land on Petula Avenue, and that the necessary bylaw be read.
Thank you. Discussion? Counselor Lauder?
Maybe this is,
Counselor, seconded by Counselor Sandberg.
since this is great news for our city, maybe Mr. Magyar could explain the sale that they've worked so hard on.
Your worship through to council. Yes, this is the first sale, so council's aware this is the Allier Farm lands that the city has owned since 2016. We ran an RFP process that closed in August, and we brought forward some recommendations to council. And this actually is the first of the number of sales that we have gone back to what we considered all the successful bidders. And so this is the first sale. I think council will be pleasantly delighted. I think over the next couple months, there'll probably be a sale or two pretty much at every meeting, just carrying through all the agreements of purchase and sale. So there's always a little bit of kind of negotiating a final items, timing, that sort of thing as we go through. But yeah, this is certainly great news. This is the first of many sales to come. It's a manufacturer not related to automotive, so it kind of fits with our strategy of trying to diversify the economy, and so we're happy to see them go forward.
Thank you. Definitely good news. Yeah. Any other discussion or questions? Okay, all those in favor? Unanimous. That is carried. We've sold our first piece of that. Thank you. Nothing from clerks or the CAO's office, human resources, or nothing from fireworks. And now we have Public Works, 14J.1, proposal for the procurement of 2 waste collection vehicles. Counselor Tate?
This is for poor Mr. Waugh, who sat here for 2.5 hours. That Woodstock City Council provides pre-budget approval of the sole source procurement of 2 waste collection vehicles from Joe Johnson Equipment totaling $940,000, including HST to be funded from equipment reserve.
Thank you. Looking for a seconder? Counselor Leatherborough, discussion? Counselor Leatherborough?
Through your worship, who do I direct my question to about the report? Or the CAO, but I did read in the report that it looks like there's some cost savings and some time savings, which is great. But I kind of wanted to ask in the public setting, I saw the or for a newly developed organics program. So there could be an incentive of, I don't know if you want to, Mr. Wall wants to come up and answer.
Mr. Wall, would you speak to this? Let you
Anyways.
stretch a little bit.
Sorry, just anything you can share for the potential offering it could have to deal with a organics program would be great. Thanks.
To the mayor, to council, Leatherborough, this is my first time speaking in front of council on this.
So let's make this difficult for him.
Yeah, you can if you want. No, we had done some moving around in our capital budget to switch around, so we'd be able to try and work in 2 trucks due to this very fortunate circumstance. It's usually nowadays to even get a chassis built and delivered, you can be waiting up to 28 to 30 months and an additional 8 to 10 months for build. So to have this opportunity to go ahead and purchase them now, or at least put our names on them, would allow us to see them possibly within next year. But as everything changes, as we know with the producer responsibilities from the province and that the possible loss of recycling collection, we still have to supply services for our other waste collection services. And then as that we are in present discussions with the county and due to mandates by the province, we are looking at the possibility of having an organics program. So we will still need the same amount of vehicles to be able to provide the waste collection services and organics, whether we still retain or lose the recycling services.
Thank you. Any other questions? Counselor Lauder?
I don't have a question, but it's just a comment. I think your staff will be really happy with a delivery of these trucks because I know in our area, they have come by later in the afternoon in a half-ton truck, throwing them in there. So I think this is a much needed purchase in the city. So thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Well, we certainly see the pickup trucks go by and of course fill up as well, because of course the trucks need a lot of maintenance as well, unfortunately, so the need is there. Thank you, Rafael. Thank you very much for coming forward. Thank you for being here. And with that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed, carried. Nothing from IT tonight, no special committee advisory task force reports. No notice of motions. Of course, we moved ahead, new business already, so then we skip over to draft bylaws. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Schadenberg, that the following bylaws be given a first and second reading. 9633-23 OILC financing bylaw approval revised. 9635-23, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 8626-10 as amended, ZN 8-22-22 Salter Ave. 9636-23, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 8626-10 as amended, ZN 8-23-09 714-976 and 714-986 on Oxford Road 4. 9637-23, a bylaw to provide for the sale to sell approximately 11 acres of city-owned industrial land on Petula Avenue to 588922 Ontario, Inc.
Thank you. And for council, you'll notice one was skipped over because of course we are moved the deferral, just for clarity. Okay. Any questions or comments on that before I call the vote? All those in favor? None opposed, carried. Councillor Lauder.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Wheaton, that the following bylaws be given a third and final reading. 9633-23, 9634-23, whoops, missed that. I had it circled. 9635-23, 9636-23, 9637-23.
Perfect. Thank you. Last chance, any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. And at 9:27, we will go through, and we're going to start with Councillor Schadenberg tonight.
First of all, just a reminder, the Woodstock Museum National Historic Site, which is celebrating its 75th anniversary this year. Be sure to attend their October 28th, that's a Saturday, for the reenactment of the 1890 trial of Reginald Birchall, which actually took place on the second floor of the museum, back when the main floor was still City Hall. So it's $20 per person. Contact the museum to make sure you can get your group or your family in on this. It's going between 1 and 8 p.m. So if you come in at 1 o'clock, then 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, it's every 50 minutes or an hour that they're doing this reenactment of the Birchall trial. Speaking about 75 anniversaries, it's a open house for the 75th anniversary of the Woodstock Curling Club. WoodstockCurling.com is the website. Saturday, October 21st from 1 till 5 p.m. And you can try curling for free. Just make sure you bring clean shoes. And I think they want to do that after 3 p.m. And the last thing I want to mention is congratulations to our Director of Parks and Recreation, Brian Connors. He was received the President's Award from the Ontario Parks Association. Protecting Tomorrow Today is kind of what the title of the award ceremony would be at the Ontario Parks Association. That was, I believe, just a couple weekends ago. Dedication to providing exceptional parks and playground equipment, sports facilities, and of course, many other programs around the city of Woodstock, including swimming lessons, summer camps, et cetera, et cetera. And Brian's also a former OPA, which is the Ontario Parks Association Board of Directors member. So we should really give Brian Connors a recognition for his longtime service to that group.
Thank you.
Oh, the speech, Brian?
There's being put on the spot, eh? All right, Counselor Lauder.
Thank you. Just an announcement from the Art Gallery, a reminder that the gallery's fall open house is coming up Saturday, November the 4th from 1 to 3 p.m. And please join us as we celebrate our new fall 2023 exhibition. And the event is free. And I am so thankful that I was able to attend the opening of our exhibition in the States, Sylvania, our sister city, on the weekend, and see the wonderful museums that they have in Sylvania, in Toledo, actually. So it was a great experience. Also, Theater Woodstock is presenting their show When the Reaper Calls, commencing tomorrow evening. They are advertising it as a comical thriller. I think it's getting ready for Halloween on October 31st. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we're going to go Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
Counselor Lauder stole my thunder with the Theater Woodstock. As long as somebody's mentioning it. Also, I just wanted to say I had the opportunity to go down to our sister city, Sylvania, Ohio last weekend as well. The visual elements for the revealing of that, and getting the chance to see some of the artwork again. Blows my mind how talented some people are. There was a portrait of Maurice that just, I think I stared at that one for hours, and that's a local artist from Mount Elgin. So it was great. I highly encourage folks to go and visit Sylvania. It's a beautiful town. They have a great brewery called Inside the Five. So, and it's just a walk from where we stayed, but great location, great folks down there. And if you have the chance, if you're going through Ohio, stop through Sylvania. I am, if anybody wants to help me get my Halloween costume ready for Saturday for the big night out, I would greatly appreciate your support because I haven't even started it. And also just along the lines of Halloween, of course, that's coming up in a little over a week. Watch out for the youngsters. They get pretty excited at this time of the year. My two have decided that they're done the trick-or-treating year, so they'll be at home handing out candy. So happy Halloween to everyone. Be safe. Watch out for the little ones. And yeah, take care.
Thank you. Counselor Leatherborough.
I'll keep mine short. I hope your event is super successful this weekend. Unfortunately, I won't be there, but I hope lots of people come with great costumes. And I'm looking at the Chamber of Commerce event, another event. I won't be there, but it is on November 8th. And I would encourage everyone to go online and do some online voting. There are great organizations and businesses and people's nominated. And yeah, looking forward to some candy in the near future.
Thank you. Counselor Tate.
I had a message from my mother today, and I just thought I would share it. So she sat with a woman at Progress yesterday who's lived in the area for about 5 years, and she couldn't say enough good things about our library. And her husband was in the military, so she has a lot to compare. And my sister's husband was in the military. They moved every 2 years. So you can imagine how many municipalities she's been in. So I'm going to share that with Lindsay. That's quite impressive. And just on a sad note, I'd like to offer my condolences to Mr. Waugh and his family. And if it's okay, I just want to read one little thing from the obituary because I read it yesterday and I was like, oh. So, and it just, I thought to myself, well, we could all be so innocent. It would make such a difference. But they had Chad's life was a testament to the power of joy, the value of imagination, and the magic of remaining forever young at heart. His story encourages us to embrace the child within, to seek out adventure, and to cherish every moment. Chad Edward Waugh, you will forever remain in our hearts, remind us to live with joy, love, and passion, and dream without limits. So I thought that was very touching. And, you know, if more of us live like that, it would make a big difference. So thanks.
Amen to that. Counselor Wheaton.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. Just a few moments ago, Councillor Lauder read out the final bylaws for a third reading, and she seconded by Councillor Wheaton. And that will be the last time that a motion is moved or seconded by Councillor Wheaton. Effective tomorrow, I will be unassuming that name and going back to my before I was married name of Bernie M. Martin. I realize that's a big shift for a lot of people, but a deep appreciation to staff for making that happen, to the clerk, to IT, to communications. Officially, my email has changed over, so it is B Martin at City of Woodstock, and yeah, a new adventure, a new journey, and looking forward to all of the opportunities that brings. We have discussed having a jar here on the desk that anyone who accidentally uses the old name, we might put a little donation in there that would end up at Operation Sharing Food for Friends program. Just a little incentive to get it right. The nameplate will take a couple of weeks to arrive, so we'll see if we can come up with something to help you remember in the meantime. But thank you to staff for making that happen.
Well, considering I call out the names the most, I just might as well start bringing some money with me. And with that, most things have been addressed. A couple of things, definitely want to start off with, to the Waugh family, thinking of you all. Especially goes to show the character of our employees. You lose a brother and you still are here to make sure council's questions are answered. So just thank you for your dedication. And we are thinking about you and your family during this incredibly, incredibly tough time. I couldn't imagine. Okay. Sylvania, Ohio was fantastic. Been there quite a few times, and every time I walk away with realizing how hospitable they are, how they treat us. They're so excited when, somebody learns you're from Woodstock. I gotta say, every time I walk away there, that a sister city is a very big deal to them, and they love seeing people from Woodstock. And I love the conversations of coming to visit us here in the city of Woodstock. And after speaking with one of our local hotel owners, it happens far more than we know. So it was very good to see. Big Brothers Big Sisters this Saturday night. It's been a little bit of a tradition now in my family that we all go and get together and pick a Halloween costume out. So I'm excited for that. My sisters are coming down tomorrow, and we're going to be a fun family. It was Family Feud last year, and you'll see the pictures, I'm sure, on social media some point Saturday night or Sunday of what we are this year. Halloween is coming. Please be safe. Please drive carefully. You're going to have a lot of young people out running around, high on a little bit of sugar probably. So please be cautious. And last year I didn't have anybody come to my house, so I welcome anybody to pop in and get rid of some candy, because guess who eats it when nobody else does. Congratulations, Brian, to you, but also your staff. I recognize that staff around you is what makes it possible, makes you shine, and definitely want to recognize them just as much as you. Congratulations, and all Parks and Rec staff. So thank you for putting us on that stage and making everybody realize just how good we do have it here in the city of Woodstock. So thank you for that. I met one of my childhood mentors. I'm cautious to say idol, but almost there at one point. Pinball Clemens was in town yesterday, and what a great event. I actually shared the field with him 31 years ago, believe it or not. Tried out with I got an invite to the Toronto Argonauts team, and being a running back, he was my instructor there and ran me through all the drills. I certainly never expected him to remember me, and we hit it off, and by the sounds of it, I might even be going to Toronto next year to join him in the team, because of course now he's the general manager. He's been coach and everything else. So that was really exciting moment for me personally to see him after all these years. Of course, it made me feel very old when I realized how long it's been, but I got to say, any day now, the most excited thing in the world is I'm going to be a grandfather. I am no news yet. We've got a baby girl coming, and please keep us in your thoughts and prayers. And hopefully next time I'm sitting in this room, I'll be able to share the exact time and date and everything else. So, and with that, I'll call for an adjournment. Councillor Leatherborough, second by Councillor Wheaton for the last time. All those in favor? We are adjourned, everybody. Have a great night and have a safe and fun Halloween.